Here are my top 5 book recommendations to spark inspiration. Write the Story is a fabulous book for inspiration. It's full of one-line writing prompts and then words to include in your story. A famous fictional character in the wrong story. Include the following words: salute, tangy, boss, knee. Or a ghost story. Include the following words: tango, scuff, balloon. On Main Street in a small town, the story begins in a funeral. The villain, The Dog Walk by Sven Nordquist. You can use this book or a book similar to this, like the Where's Waldo series. Just something that has lots of detailed illustration, lots of tiny pictures and stories going on. This book actually has no words, and I prefer it to the Where's Waldo series because of its fantastical element. I am a fantasy writer, so that appeals more to me. Although there are some Where's Waldo books that have scenes with vampires or knights or medieval times. This is a good one if you just need ideas for a creature, a character, a little dynamic or scene. It's got lots of beautiful, rich illustrations of fantasy lands. If you're trying to do your own world building or create some settings, this can also be a great place to kick off. Research has shown that there's a lot of benefits to doodling, and even though I myself am not a visual artist, I'm a firm believer in the power of using visual art to unlock my creativity. So whether it's looking at pictures like in the Dog Walk book that I showed earlier, or trying to scribble my own pictures, it's a good way to get the creative part of your brain active and going. Sometimes if you doodle a character or doodle some action happening or just doodle flowers or birds or whatever, it can help you tap into who the character for your story really is, who you need to add to your story, what the setting of your story looks like, or just something completely unrelated that your creative part of your brain is now able to access. So this is my top recommendation. Start with a Scribble by Sir Quentin Blake and John Cassidy. Quentin Blake did the pictures for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and a lot of other classic kids books that are probably dear to your heart. So it's really fun because his teaching style and his art style are both really laid back. There's no mistakes. You just do what you feel and you just try to capture the essence of the character or the scene or the thought. So this is great for me because, like I said, I'm not really a visual artist, but I don't worry about perfection or how I want things to turn out when I do this. It's really just scribbling to get me going. The Storyteller's Handbook by Elsie Hurst is a gorgeous, gorgeous book, in the same vein as The Dog Walk, but much more detailed, much more intense fantasy illustrations. And that's literally all it is. It's pictures and pictures and pictures. You can look at them and think, okay, a giant snail, what can I do with that? Or giraffes. There's giraffes in this picture too. Lots of questions, lots of thoughts. A great place to get started if you're trying to come up with a story, again, setting, characters, all that jazz. And then finally, in the same vein as The Dog Walk and The Storyteller's Handbook, we have Harris Burdick by Chris Van Allsburg. It's just pictures with a single tagline, and it's kind of got a fun premise that all these pictures were brought into this editor years ago, and the gentleman dropped them off, said, I have stories to go with all of these, look them over and see if you're interested. And then he never came back with the stories, so the editor was just left with the pictures. Of course, fictional. A bunch of famous short story writers have actually written stories to go with all of these prompts and pictures in a separate collection that I don't have with me, but they're free for whoever. Use them to start your own story. So we've got like Archie, Boy Wonder. A tiny voice asked, is he the one? And there's a picture, and that's it. Or you've got like an invited guest. His heart was pounding. He was sure he'd seen the doorknob move. Some of these border a little bit more on horror or dark fiction, but there's also fantasy. So whatever vibe you're kind of going for, or just to get your creativity flowing.